Well, hello, listeners, and welcome back to our Experts podcast. I'm Carol Matichka, your host, bringing you interesting guests who will share their perspectives and expertise regarding pharmacy and all topics surrounding the profession of pharmacy. So today we have with us a very exciting guest. We have with us somebody many of you probably know, Michael Hogue. So Michael is the CEO of the American Pharmacists Association, which represents 800,000 pharmacists, student pharmacists, technicians, and pharmaceutical scientists in the U.S. He's also served as president for the APHA before taking on his position as CEO. So needless to say, Michael is extremely knowledgeable about pharmacy, really a great leader. I'm really looking forward to talking to you today, Michael. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And so I'd love to learn a little bit about our guests. Can you tell us about yourself? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to pharmacy school?
Yeah, so I'm a native of Illinois, the southern tip of the state. And when I decided to go to pharmacy school, it was actually closer for me to drive to Birmingham, Alabama, than it was to drive to Chicago.
Wow.
So I went to pharmacy school at Samford University in Birmingham and really enjoyed my time there. But yeah, that was I have both my BS degree in pharmacy and then did a track-in PharmD program and got my PharmD from there as well.
All right, great. And you've really become an amazing leader and advocate for pharmacy. So would you say that you always had a passion for leadership, or did this develop for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I look back and I know that there were definitely some folks along the way that mentored me and that helped encourage me. I think that, leaders, the question, are leaders born or are they made or how does it happen? I just think it's a journey. I think it's a part of, the experiences that we have. The people that invest time and effort into our lives help make us into who we are. And I think that I had some just really phenomenal folks that invested in my life, and that went all the way back into even high school. And I just teachers make such a huge difference for all of us, don't they? And
They
I
do.
think my high school band director was that teacher for me. I mean, he just
Wow.
kind of gave me confidence. I love music. I love to play. I play the trumpet. I actually went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale for a short period of time as a music major.
Oh,
And
wow.
I play guitar, and I wish I could play the piano beautifully. I can't, but I've attempted. But I just love music. But that high school band director, if I had to be totally honest, he's probably the first person that really helped me see what was possible and helped give me confidence to step out and lead. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But there have been dozens of people who've invested in my life over the years and helped develop me into a leader. And I think that's really what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be investing in the lives of the future leaders of our profession and helping to encourage them and show them a path and help them find their place in the profession and professional leadership.
That's awesome. And you absolutely do that. And I would agree. I feel the same way about there's just been so many people along the way that really pushed me to where I am even today as well. It's just never would have imagined when I was first even in high school or in grammar school. But that's fantastic. I love that your band director was able to be that one to really spark that. My son plays trumpet, so that's really fascinating, and he loved his band director too. So tell us a little bit about your leadership journey. What made you decide to run for APHA presidency?
Well, the APHA presidency certainly didn't happen overnight. There's a whole lot of involvement in APHA that occurred that really started when I was a student pharmacist at Samford in my P1 year. I have an outgoing personality and I never meet a stranger. So quickly became friends with lots of folks at the school there in Birmingham. But there were two ladies that were P3 students at Samford, and they came up to me one day in the hallway and said, "Hey, Michael, we want you to go to a pharmacy convention with us." And I said, "That's great. Where's the convention?" And they said, "Well, it's going to be in Dallas, Texas, and it's next March, and we'd love for you to come." And I'd never been to Texas, so I thought it sounded like an adventure, and I had no idea what a pharmacy convention was. But these two ladies were telling me that it was something I should do, and I didn't say no. So I found myself at my very first APHA annual meeting in Dallas, Texas, and that was in the early '90s. And once I was at that meeting, I saw a part of the profession that I had never seen before. When I say a part, it's really an understatement. When I came to Samford, I grew up in this very small rural community in Southern Illinois, and my only exposure to pharmacy as a profession was Eric, my local town pharmacist in Vienna, Illinois. And I would go by the pharmacy in the after basketball practice in the evenings and get a cherry Coca-Cola from his soda fountain. And my mom would always take care of our healthcare needs there, but Eric was a nice guy, independent pharmacist. That was my first exposure to a pharmacy. And then later on, after I got old enough to have a job, I worked for my cousin's pharmacy several miles away in the town of Metropolis, Illinois. And so independent pharmacy, which is wonderful, is the only exposure really to pharmacy I had. So when I went to pharmacy school, I didn't know there were hospital pharmacists. I didn't know pharmacists did other things. So going to that very first convention was transformational for me. I mean, I was just in awe of all of these pharmacists that were surrounding me at the convention. I was like, wow, this is pharmacy. This is even better than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
This is even bigger than I thought it was going to be. So I think that, it wasn't so much that there was something that inspired me right at the moment to be president of APHA, but it was because someone encouraged me really early on to go to a meeting and actually get exposed to how big this profession is and what's possible. That's what energized me and excited me. And had I not had that first experience, I probably would have never followed that path and that journey in leadership.
And you've been in academia for a while, and I've seen that too, just that spark of inspiration in students when they go to the conventions. And so I highly encourage people to attend, and just being there in person and with all the other pharmacists, it's just an amazing experience. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's really important for students to hear this, that, you're going to be in pharmacy school for 3 or 4 years, depending on your program and where you're going to school. You need to make a personal commitment to yourself. If you're listening to this and you're a student, you need to make a personal commitment to yourself that you will attend at least one pharmacy convention while you're a student.
Agree.
Just make a commitment and do it. And if you're an academic faculty member or a dean and you're listening to this podcast, you need to figure out how to create an environment at your institution that fully supports every student plugging in and attending a national convention. Of course, we'd love to have them at the APHA annual meeting, but go somewhere, support your students being involved and attending these professional meetings. Going to the meeting is so critical that I would tell you that, put aside a test, an exam, whatever you got to do. Make it easy for your students to say yes to going to the meetings.
Love it. Wholeheartedly agree. So tell us a little bit about your experience as president. Was there one greatest moment that you feel was, or one of your greatest accomplishments that you feel or that you consider throughout your presidency that you want to share?
So I was the first and only to date president of APHA ever sworn in outside of an annual meeting of APHA in a face-to-face environment. I was sworn in 1 week after the pandemic was declared. APHA canceled its annual meeting that year, and we held a House of Delegates session in the pandemic, and I was on Zoom, much like we are today.
Yep.
And I raised my right hand and took the oath of office. And my wife was standing 6 feet away because we had the distance
Right.
because of COVID. It was quite a moment, and all the emotions that ran through my heart and head at that moment of taking leadership of a national professional organization at a moment when the world was so uncertain and there was chaos and there was so much that we didn't know. So APHA staff worked very closely with me during my presidency to create a mechanism for me to connect with members. And so we started a weekly podcast for pharmacists. Actually, it was a live webinar series. It wasn't really a podcast. It was a weekly live webinar series. We held them I think it was Thursday mornings for 52 consecutive weeks. And our goal was to bring the latest information we could bring to pharmacists on the front lines who were fighting COVID. And we really, we averaged over 1,000 attendees a week to that webinar. We had, pharmacists from around the world that would dial in and participate and try to get the latest information. We had some world-renowned guests from NIH and CDC, and it was just really a golden opportunity. And probably I had the chance to touch and talk to more pharmacists than I would have if I would have been sworn in the regular way as APHA president at a meeting. It just gave me this wonderful experience to get to know our profession and for the profession to get to know me. So as I stepped into the role of CEO, I think it's been an easy transition in that regards, because I feel like I'm a familiar face to the profession.
Well, that's an incredible accomplishment there. And even speaking about the webinar, that's fantastic. And you were really busy, of course, as dean at Loma Linda when you took on your position. So how did you find time to juggle all of those responsibilities?
Yeah, I've got to just say the folks at Loma Linda are extraordinary people. I've been blessed in my entire career to work with a lot of great people, a lot of places, but there's none finer than the folks that I worked with at Loma Linda University. Their president, Richard Hart, and provost Ron Carter, leadership all the way up to the health system level, were just so embracing and supportive of me as APHA president. They were supportive of the roles that I had. I was the pharmacist appointee by the CDC to the COVID-19 vaccines work group. It's a work group of over 50 folks from across the country who helped shape the CDC's policies and reviewed the science around the COVID-19 vaccines. And so, one pharmacist in the room, and that was me. It was a really great opportunity for me to learn a lot about basic immunology, things that I had forgotten a long time ago, but had honed up my skills on. And then it resulted in the university actually putting me in charge of their COVID-19 mass vaccination efforts. And when I say university, I actually mean the whole health system. Loma Linda is a 6-hospital system with over 1,000 physicians in their faculty practice group, and very, very large academic health science center. In fact, the largest faith-based academic health science center in the U.S. So, I think that it's just through the support of a lot of people, you balance things, and you also learn to do whatever is necessary in the moment to be able to meet the needs that need to be met. So I felt like there,
and then sometimes you look back and you're surprised. Sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
You do in reverse. When you
Yeah.
look backwards, you say, how in the world did I do that? And I couldn't tell you how I did it, except that I had an awful lot of collaborators and supporters, and I didn't do anything on my own except lead. It takes courage sometimes to lead when things are really uncertain,
It
and
does.
sometimes you have to make decisions when you don't have all the information you'd like to have, but
Yeah.
you got to make them. You got to
Yeah.
sometimes make those decisions. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's incredible. So, with any large organization, of course, there can be challenges. I know with APHA, there was a vacancy in the CEO position. So, what then led you to consider taking on the position of CEO with APHA?
Well, I'm really, really passionate about our profession. I love pharmacy. Pharmacy has treated me very well as a profession. I reaped the benefits of the profession for in so many ways, and I love the profession, and I see the potential of the profession. I know that pharmacists, I know that patients need pharmacists. I know that consumers need access to pharmacists in every interaction on the healthcare team. I mean, regardless of whether a pharmacist is functioning in the ER, the OR, the ICU, the transitions of care, step down units, community-based pharmacies, and managed care plans. There's needs for pharmacists everywhere in our system, and folks are starting to wake up to that. But there are barriers to consumers being able to have full access to pharmacist care services, and I see those barriers very clearly, and I know that we need to put a ton of elbow grease to solving for that problem. And I just saw that this opportunity to come to APHA as a CEO would be to lead the teams that hopefully could find those solutions. I'm excited every day to get up and come to APHA headquarters here on Constitution Avenue and put my energies to work to try to make sure that consumers do have access to pharmacist care services, and to go to work to fight every day for our members, and to make sure that pharmacist voices are heard in the places that they need to be heard. And so, to me, it's just it's an extension of my own commitment to the profession and my excitement and enthusiasm about our future.
That's awesome. And APHA and our profession is lucky to have you. So thank you for taking on that huge responsibility. Now, if someone listening was interested in getting more involved as a pharmacist, what do you typically recommend to them? How should they go about doing that?
Well, first of all, thanks for that question. First of all, we need pharmacists to join. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to tell just a real quick
Sure.
story.
Yeah.
I had an interaction with a former student of mine several years ago, and the student was having, at that time, it was pre-pandemic, and it was difficult. The former student, practicing pharmacist, was having difficulty finding a job. And, I'll save you all the details. But what I discovered in having conversation with this former student is that she had not been a member of her state pharmacy association since she graduated from pharmacy school, nor had she been a member of APHA or any other professional organization. And as a result of that, she thought everything was going along in life pretty good. And she thought, well, what do they do for me? I don't need a professional association. They don't do anything for me. And that was kind of her belief. But what professional associations do for pharmacists that we often forget about is they give us the ability to have connections and network with people that are outside of our practice. Most of us as pharmacists don't think about it because we get up and go to work and we do a good job. We interact with the people that are in our practice and around us. And then we go home and we have family responsibilities and other priorities, and things take our place. So it's not that we're anti-association as pharmacists. It's just that we get busy and we don't think about it. It
Right.
just isn't an intentional thought. So, my advice first is just to be very intentional about paying your dues. And I believe that every pharmacist really needs to be a member of their state pharmacy association. The practice of pharmacy happens at the state level. The regulation happens there. The laws happen there. So if you want to really impact your profession as a pharmacist and you've got a limited amount of time, you should do that first with your state pharmacy association. I just think it's vital.
I agree.
And then, yeah, and then the second thing you do is you join APHA and you say, well, but I'm a pediatric pharmacist, or I'm an oncology pharmacist, or I'm a consultant pharmacist. Shouldn't I join those organizations? And I would say, well, yes, you should. But I would say to you that you need a professional network and you need a career trajectory that gives you options for the future. Pharmacy is a versatile degree, and we're specializing in pharmacy and becoming very highly specialized, but there's so many things outside of our control. Like, you can't control when a health system is going to decide to eliminate positions because they don't have funding. Or you can't decide when a corporation is going to shutter its doors or sell out. Think Winn-Dixie sold all their pharmacies, shut them all down. And all of those pharmacists didn't expect that life interruption.
Yeah.
Pediatric pharmacist contacted me recently. Hospital discontinued her service. She didn't expect to not have a job as a pediatric pharmacist. So I would argue that being a member of APHA provides you a professional network and provides you the opportunity to connect with pharmacists broadly in the profession, so that when life gives you something that you didn't ask for, you don't have to hit a panic button. You just hit your network. You hit your network button and you connect with those people broadly in the profession. And yes, you should be a member of HOPA if you're a hematology oncology pharmacist, or the American or the Association for Psychiatric Pharmacists if you're a psych pharmacist, or et cetera, et cetera. Join those organizations. They will help you around your specialty. That's great. But your state association is the foundation. And anybody listening to this message that's not a member of your state association, please, I'm going to just be as blunt about this as I can. You may not recognize how badly you need your state association today, but you are going to need it. And it's going to be a rude awakening. If you don't do it, at some point, you're going to find yourself stranded on an island and trapped.
Right.
And then you're not going to know how to get off of that island or how to not be trapped. And your state association is the place that's going to help you with that. So you really need to pay those dues.
Yeah. Often think about it as an investment. It's an investment for your future, your career, an insurance policy as well in many ways. You're thinking about, you hope that you don't need to call on your network depending on what happens in your position, but they're going to be the ones that are there for you. So great points. So let's change gears a little bit and discuss the pharmacy landscape. So what are some of the big policy issues that APHA is currently working on?
Well, and probably the two things that are most visible that folks see us working on every day. One is PBM reform. We're a pharmacist association. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. Pharmacist and pharmacy team members. So we represent technicians, pharmacists, student pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists. We have individual members, not corporate members. Our job is to represent those pharmacists. And what we are seeing happen in the marketplace is, because of the largely unregulated practices of pharmacy benefit management companies and the reimbursement practices that result in pharmacies getting paid less than the cost of the drug, the pharmacists are getting squeezed out of the equation, and the pharmacists are not going to have access to the personnel they need in order to be able to provide care to the patients that they're trying to provide care for in the communities.
Right.
So we're fighting at APHA about PBM reform because it is the PBM's payment structures are severely limiting the ability of pharmacists to provide care for their patients. So that's why we're fighting on that. We're working on that with Congress. We're working on that with the FTC. We're working with the state legislatures in collaboration with the National Alliance of State Pharmacy Associations, NASPA. We find that this is really a critical issue, and it's a foundational one that has to be solved for. So that's big issue. Issue number two, which is really our primary role at APHA is to try to secure payment for pharmacist services from major medical insurers, including from Medicare. And so we oftentimes talk about this as provider status, but what it essentially means is that we need recognition of pharmacists under Medicare as providers of healthcare services for Medicare Part A and Part B, so that pharmacists can be paid for their care services and not just for drug products. And so we have a bill in Congress that we're working very hard called ECAPS that would allow Medicare Part B to compensate and provide coverage for Medicare beneficiaries for testing and treating for respiratory disorders in the pharmacy, and also would allow pharmacies to be reimbursed directly and pharmacists for vaccinations, and not just under the mass immunization rules. So we're working on that. I can give you tons of other examples. I mean, I have a meeting coming up on Monday at the White House with White House Policy Council on HIV. And we're working hard with the administration to try to find pathways for pharmacists to be paid for their clinical care services and providing HIV PEP and PrEP, including the testing and the counseling that's necessary to ensure safe prescribing of those medications. So, there's all kinds of initiatives we work on there.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last thing I would just say that's important to mention is the workplace conditions, workplace issues, and well-being of pharmacists. Again, these three issues are vital, and you've probably seen APHA very visible. We regularly meet with pharmacists on the front lines in chains, hospitals, in community pharmacies, and try to work on the things that will make that situation better.
That's fantastic. And that's a lot. Obviously, you're extremely busy. And I think for the average pharmacist, sometimes they feel their hands are a bit tied with some of these policy issues. So what do you recommend to the typical pharmacist, I would say, in regards to how they can help in that capacity with some of these issues?
Well, first of all, for those of you who are experiencing workplace issues, shortages of staffing, and you're struggling with, difficult situations in that regard, APHA at pharmacist.com has something called the Power Reporting Tool. That's the Pharmacist Workplace and Wellbeing Reporting Tool. And we work with the patient safety organization, independent patient safety organization, to allow pharmacists to anonymously report situations in the workplace which they think may be leading to unsafe patient care environment or unsafe conditions. You can also report good things that are happening when you see a workplace or an environment, you see something that's working, that's actually helping with patient safety in the workplace. You can report that as well. The PSO reports back to APHA aggregate data, including the annotated comments that are submitted by pharmacists. And then we utilize that information to sit down with employers, to sit down with health systems, sit down with boards of pharmacy, and discuss what regulatory change needs to happen. So just simply,
that's fantastic.
Just tell us about give us that information. Fill out the Power Reporting Tool, PWW at pharmacist.com.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you have to be an APHA member to report?
No, the Power Reporting Tool is open for all pharmacists to be able to report their experiences. We do have also well-being resources that are available. Some of those well-being resources are members-only benefits to help support members, but we do have the Power Tool is available for everyone.
Great, thank you. Well, that's amazing. And I know that that's such a huge concern of pharmacists right now. And so feeling like they have somebody who has their back. And again, going back to that's what the organizations are there for. They are there to help not only the pharmacists, but the profession in general. So where do you see then the future of pharmacy really heading at this point? What would you say if somebody asked you, where is pharmacy going? What are your thoughts, especially community pharmacy? I think we'll see some major shifts there, but.
Yeah. Well, first of all, just let me level set and say when I use the term community pharmacy, I'm talking about any setting in the community where pharmacists are engaged in the care of patients. So that includes everything from big box retailers to traditional pharmacy chains to independently owned pharmacies to the community pharmacies owned by hospitals and health systems. So it's a large group of community pharmacists. But absolutely. The role of the community pharmacist is changing, and it's changing very rapidly. As states are passing laws allowing pharmacists to prescribe medications, as laws are changing, state practice acts are changing to a standard of care model and away from the traditional model of regulating. We're seeing that automation is being adopted more rapidly, remote fill technologies being implemented to prepare prescriptions. We're seeing expanded roles for pharmacy technicians that are coming along. And, honestly, I think that trend is going to continue. I know that there are some pharmacists who feel very afraid of that because they're worried that technicians and technology are going to take their jobs. I'm not worried about that at all, actually, and I'll tell you why I'm not worried about it. Because we're seeing demands for pharmacists in other sectors where pharmacists are desperately needed on healthcare teams. And as those payment for pharmacist services come up, we've got group medical practices all across the country that are wanting to hire more pharmacists to embed in their clinical practices. That's going to continue to happen. And pharmacists are going to be needed for primary health care. And so one of the big things that I see happening in Canada and in Great Britain is reliance upon pharmacists now to be primary care providers. In the province of Alberta, I think it was, in Canada, I just met with the Canadian Pharmacists Association. They were sharing this with me, that in the first quarter of 2024, there were over 60% of all the primary care visits in Alberta were visits to pharmacists for primary care and not to physicians. This trend will creep across the border, and we are going to see pharmacists emerge as primary care providers, and it requires a completely different model. It requires that, dispensing is going to happen, but it's going to happen using efficient processes to get the drugs into the hands of patients. And the value in the pharmacist is actually taking care of the people in their community more fully and comprehensively. And so this is what the healthcare system needs. This is where we're headed. And I think community pharmacy is going to look very different in the future. And it's a very, very bright future. And it's exciting. It's a very exciting.
It is. Yeah. And it's music to my ears.
Yeah.
Because I wholeheartedly agree. And it's one of those chicken and the egg thing. It's like, what's going to happen first? But we have to have the time to be able to move forward as well. So I'm not nervous about expansion of pharmacy technician roles either, as well as technology. I feel like that's only going to help us in our profession and being able to care for patients better. So, thank you.
It's a leverage point, and it is good. And again, it's hard to not be fearful. Right. The unknown is something that creates fear, but I really do feel like the future is quite bright, and APHA wants to help prepare pharmacists for their future career paths, and career path resources we think are one of the most important and vital things that APHA does as a member organization. So for our members, we want people to see those career paths and to be able to explore where they might be in the future.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what are your thoughts in regards to AI and how that might impact the profession of pharmacy?
Well, I get that question a lot, and I wish I had a good answer for it. But I think that AI obviously is going to have an important role to play in enabling pharmacists to spend more time doing the things that we need. That we're needed for in the healthcare system, the ability to make those tough decisions in patient-specific cases about drug therapy and the utilization of medications. You're never going to replace that intellectual need for the pharmacist. I think that AI as a tool could be leveraged and could help us with gathering information more quickly, potentially considering pathways that we might not have considered before when we're making decisions about patient care. And so, I think we just, again, it's one of those things that we have to keep our eye on. We want to use it for good. I just heard this week, actually, about pharmacies within the VA in South Carolina that are launching a new AI-enabled decision tool for pharmacists. And they're testing it within the Veterans Administration now with the pharmacist team there. It's intriguing. We'll watch these things closely. But again, the technology's there. The technology is coming. I have no worries whatsoever about it replacing pharmacists at all, because I know what it is that we do on the team, and I know it can't be replaced with technology. So I'm not worried about that, but we just need to watch it and make sure that what we do ensures patient safety. First and foremost, we're all about the patient, and we've got to make sure that patients have a safe experience with their medications.
Right. Use it appropriately, but absolutely. So you talked a little bit about the pharmacist and being on the healthcare team, which of course interprofessional care is so important when we're taking care of our patients. What are your thoughts in regards to interprofessional practice, and how can we improve some of those bonds to make sure that we're really taking care of our patients effectively and efficiently and safely?
Well, team-based care is where it's at. It's just 100% where it's at. And having, again, just come out of Loma Linda University, where the team functions so well together and everyone's reliant on each other to be able to do the things that we're specifically trained to do on the team, it's extraordinary how well care happens when you have everybody on the team functioning together. So, we've got some significant challenges right now with the communication of patient information and patient data, particularly in the community pharmacy setting, between the other members of the healthcare team. But technology is going to fix that, and there will be solutions, and I think they're coming quickly. I don't think this is going to take us forever. Remember, we figured out, the government figured out really quickly how to get every pharmacy in America connected to a network to report vaccination for COVID and testing results for COVID. So if the government can come up with something like that overnight, don't you think it's possible that they can come up with the solutions that'll ensure the interconnectivity of the clinical care that's received by and provided by pharmacists in local communities with the clinical care services provided by other healthcare professionals? I think that solution is just around the corner. So it's critical. We have to work together as a team. There's not one single member of the team that has the capacity, knowledge, skills, abilities to do everything that patients need to have done for them. And that's why we all exist as different disciplines within healthcare.
100% agree. So what bit of wisdom could we leave maybe emerging practitioners with in your words of wisdom, I will say, Dr. Hogue?
Well, speaking to newer practitioners, I just want to say, I know that not everything you experience day in and day out right now, early in your career, is positive or exciting. I know you wish you had more staff. I know you wish you had more support from those people that are supervising you and above. I wish that patients were kinder to you. I wish that people weren't so mean. But I need you to know that I see you, APHA sees you, and we're working hard behind the scenes and in the public to try to help change the perceptions about what you do, because we know what you do is saving lives. And I don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be hopeful about your future and don't lose your dream. You do have a bright future, and that dream of yours of what you wanted to do when you got out of school, when you were a new graduate, is going to happen. We will persist with you. We will stand by your side. But we need you to just know we see you and we want to encourage you. And if you don't mind, I'd just like to mention I have an email account that I would like to just make everybody aware of. It's CEO at aphanet.org. That's CEO at aphanet.org. And if you have stories of things you think I should be aware of that could help you or help your practice or help us be more effective at APHA in doing what we need to do to advocate, please take time to send me an email. Share those stories. I read them. My team reads them, and we will be better because we can hear from you on the front lines. And you know what? If you would like for me or a member of our team to visit your pharmacy, I travel extensively around the U.S. at conferences and meetings, and I love visiting pharmacies and hospitals and home health practices. Doesn't matter what area you're in. Let us hear from you. We'd love to be able to try to make that happen. It may take us a while to get to everybody, but we're going to do our best to try to visit and see you in your practice. So would love to get your emails and your feedback.
Wow. Well, Michael, you've been truly inspirational. I have loved this podcast. You've shared some amazing thoughts. I really want to speak for everyone to say thank you for sharing your time and all of your inspirational words with us, and really for all of your leadership and how you've impacted the profession, impacted pharmacy. We really do truly thank you, and thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you. I'm really, really delighted to have been here with you today, and thanks so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, listeners, thank you for listening today, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. Take care, everyone.